This last video is on the cell membrane and how it acts as a gatekeeper. If you remember, the cell membrane is made out of phospholipids, which are these little things that look like two-tailed sperm. And they have two regions. This region is polar and hydrophilic, where this region is nonpolar and hydrophobic. And that means it can act as a gatekeeper, because here outside the cell we have a lot of sodium and glucose. And we don't really have it in here. Inside the cell, we have potassium ions. Let's put the charges on them. And it really wants the glucose to come in. So the cell membrane's a gatekeeper. It keeps potassium in, sodium out. Glucose is outside. And it has receptors to receive messages. So we could pretend this is a receptor right here. In fact, I think it is because of what is hooked up here. So a molecule like insulin can come and bind to it and open channels that would allow glucose to go in. So it's a gatekeeper. It controls what can go in and out, has receptors that will have a molecule bind to it like insulin. This will actually go over here and open a glucose channel. That really is a U, and it goes through. Now, it's said to have the fluid mosaic model because it's always adrift. It's not in a constant location. So the proteins move all along, the phospholipids move. Remember, we have this cholesterol that sort of keeps everything together. Now, the main lipid is this phospholipid right here, which is actually a triglyceride that a charged phosphate group has been put onto. So this charged head is hydrophilic. That means water-loving. These tails are lipids. It's a hydrocarbon. It is hydrophobic. So the tails here are hydrophobic. The heads are hydrophilic, and they line up facing the extracellular fluid and the intracellular fluid. So this stuff is going to stop anything that's charged. So that would be half of the amino acids, that would be lipid, that would be carbohydrates, that would be ions. So phospholipids are amphiphilic. The heads are polar, the tails are nonpolar. The heads love water, hydrophilic. They're facing the water inside and outside the cell. The tails repel the water. And it's put together with the hydrophilic heads facing extracellular fluid, which is mostly water, and the cytosol, which is intracellular fluid. So anything that is charged cannot get through. And again, here are those terms again: hydrophobic, water-hating; hydrophilic, water-loving. So it means the membrane can be selectively permeable. Small nonpolar molecules like carbon dioxide, oxygen, and nitrogen can actually move through on their own. And small uncharged molecules can also. So glycerol can freely go through the cell membrane. Steroid hormones can actually go through the cell membrane. You can have alcohol go through the cell membrane. Large charged molecules like sugars and proteins can't go through. Ions are charged, they cannot go through. So it only lets non-charged things through on its own. So, like I said, small lipids, steroid hormones, carbon dioxide, and oxygen. Alcohol is a sneaky one. It can sneak through. It's not supposed to, but it can sneak through because of its structure. So that means everything else can't go through. Ions, they're small enough to go through, but they're repelled by the charge in here. Small polar molecules like urea want to go through, but they're repelled because of the non-polar region here. Sugars, They want to go through too. They're small enough, but they're repelled by the hydrophobic tails in the center. And it would have to be a small charged protein like an insulin molecule that will be repelled. Larger proteins are just too big to fit in. So proteins can't go for a variety of reasons. They're charged, and some of them are just way too big. And what this means is some substances, most water-soluble substances, cannot transport it in. Carbohydrates, proteins, minerals. So the cell has to transport these in. So this could be a gas. The gas can freely go through the cell membrane. And that's something called simple diffusion. Here, this is a charged molecule. So it has to go through a special protein channel. And this right here is actually pumping things through. But again, it's a protein. So all these charged things, carbohydrates, proteins, minerals, need to go through these special proteins called transport proteins. And that is our next lecture. Thank you. For the questions, the heads of the phospholipids face the inside and outside of the cell and are attracted to water. Therefore, it is all of the above. The tails of the phospholipids are hydrophobic. The phospholipids make the cell selectively permeable. This one I don't use as a test question very often. The phospholipids are arranged so the hydrophilic heads and the hydrophobic tails are lined up facing the extra and intracellular fluid, and the tails are in the center of the membrane. This center throws people off, so I've stopped using it as a test question. And lastly, which of the following can pass on its own? Steroid hormones, which are a small lipid. Charged things, even water is charged. We're going to learn it goes through a special channel. Sodium ions, special channel. Thank you.